I know you're tired of hearing it by now, but to the lady, I think it was, that mentioned have not lived here and have a history here. Well, I have. Okay, I've spent my entire life here. I have a history here. I have generational history here. I'm in a little bit different circumstance than some of you, though, that want the zoning, and I can understand that. I'm fortunate enough that I live in an area that's surrounded by family. I know who my neighbor is. Some of you don't. And I recognize that. It can be an issue for you. However, if you want the safety and security that comes with a zoned area, then maybe you should look at a zoned area to live. If you want to live within a mile of a grocery store, you should look in town. If it don't bother you to drive 10 miles, then so be it. If you want the protection of the fire department within a mile or two, choose an area. If you want internet, high speed, Time Warner, DSL, Bondley ain't the place for you, folks. And I say that kind of sarcastic, and I don't mean it that way. Y'all, please hear me and hear my heart. I will try to control my passion and my commitment to this issue because we as a board have heard from hundreds of people, either through email or by card or petition. Over 500 people showed up at the last Board of Commissioners meeting to speak. We're not allowed to get in, which is the reason this venue was chosen. Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't show up because they feel like the decision has been made. But I haven't heard one thing here tonight on either side of this issue. Not one single thing have I heard tonight on either side of this issue that could not be accomplished with a compromise that would address every concern and have people on both sides of this issue satisfied. But we continue to push it one direction. And I can't understand why. The only explanation, that is one of the main unanswered questions around this whole topic is what's the rush? And nobody's answered that yet. The only answer I've gotten is we made a campaign promise we're going to zone the county. Folks, I made some campaign promises too. And once I got in office and learned a little bit more about the issues, I became more involved and more informed about what was going on. I changed my position. It's okay to do that when you have new information. Now, I'm not asking you to compromise your core values, nor would I. But when you've heard from this many people, I cannot wrap my brain around why we would continue to move in a direction where so many people have spoken against it. And people are not totally against zoning. You've heard that time and time again here tonight. They are against the process that we've used to get to this point. One size fits all is not the answer. I would beg you to think about what you're doing here tonight before you take this vote. There's a list of permitted uses under every zone category we have. Later tonight, we've had it added to the agenda that we will talk about permitted uses and some of the zoning categories and take a look at conditional use permits or conditional use zoning. That's exactly in different terms, but that's exactly what we proposed when we talked about open use zoning. We choose the industries or the businesses that are concerned, that are undesirable and unfavorable. We identify them and we cause them to go through a conditional meeting process. We can address those concerns that way without the blanket zoning. We're going to prove it tonight because we're going to do exactly that. We're going to take a zoning category that already ours has permitted uses in it, and we're going to change them to conditional use. What's the difference in doing that and what was proposed with open use zoning? We can accomplish the same thing. Yet, we're not using that. We're choosing to push through a blanket countywide zoning. There's not a mad rush to get industry in here of certain categories because we have unzoned areas. Yes, there may be 12 mining permits that's been requested. It has nothing to do with the zoning issue. We've been unzoned for 100 years. It has nothing to do with that. If it is a concern, put in place a conditional use permit, a conditional use issue. So, there's been a lot of misleading information on both sides of this issue. Said that zoning would prevent development. Then there's been the side that said zoning would encourage development. There are ordinances that we have in place to address developments. The zoning itself of R1, R5, I don't feel like it will either encourage or discourage development. That comes in a different category. The fact that zoning preserves farming, I would disagree with that. Because a lot of farming exists because they can do some other type of business on their farm unrelated to farming. There's a misconception that has been presented that says farming is exempt from zoning altogether. That's partially correct in that you can't zone out farming. However, if a farm decides that they want to supplement their income with something other than business, they have to go through a zoning process. They take a portion of that land, they come to this board and ask for permission for rezoning of that property for a business. It is being told that farming is totally exempt. That's only partially correct. I will use my business again for an example tonight. My business is on my farm. Today, or at the point that this is approved, it will be considered a non-conforming business. I've never liked being non-conforming with anything. But I will be a non-conforming business. If that business were not in place because it is not agriculture related, then I would have to come to the board because my property would be R1, R5, or in this case farm, and ask permission to develop a business there. That building was initially farm use. We used it to work on tractors and bulldozers and such. And later, because of its existence, it made perfect sense to move into that property and open up business. It lowered my operating cost, it lowered my startup cost, which is what hinders most business development. I believe that zoning in this manner will hinder entrepreneurial business development. I believe that the cost of a startup business with people that have property and have buildings already can get in business cheaper, and operate cheaper, and grow into something else, and maybe move to another area. The freedom to start a business on their property is important for companies doing startup. And there are a lot of those businesses. You mentioned 300. I bet there's well over 300. There's 300 you know about. There's well over 300. People that are trying to get a start with a business from their home. And if the time comes that they have to get permission to operate a business out of existing building or land they have, it may prevent them from doing so. So I really believe that it'll hinder business development. And that's one thing we keep saying we're all about. There are tire stores, there are trucking companies, there's body shops, there's feed stores, there's all types of businesses in western Chatham County that currently exist because they were able to start that way. And they would be hindered from doing that if they had to come and get it rezoned because it's on agricultural property or a residential piece of property. So I understand the concerns. I appreciate the concerns. I support some of the concerns, but I don't support the way that we're going about doing this. We said we'd have public input. We said we'd have community meetings. We said we'd involve the public, let them tell us what they want their communities to look like, but we haven't done that. What we've done is decided what we want it to look like and say, now, you tell us how you feel about it. And that's not the way, that's not the way we said we were going to do this. And it bothers me that we continue to head down that road. Folks, we're talking about 388 square miles here, 11,000 pieces of property. That affects a lot of people. It's hard to take the approach of one big swath and covering everything and properly address things. We're already talking about amending by allowing businesses to be rezoned if they choose to. We're even talking about, and which I think is a good thing, waiving the cost to do that. But at the same time we're doing this, we're spending $300,000 for a comprehensive land use plan that will tell us those things. Then when that report comes in, we can make the adjustments. We're going to end up undoing and redoing a lot of the work that's been done. And we could wait for the plan. People say, well, the plan will take too long. We've got other concerns we've got to address between now and then. Exactly. So why don't we take the approach with conditional use, like we're going to do on these other issues, and address it that way. And we can get these concerns taken care of. I'd ask you to reconsider that. A couple things. Rail sidings. We got 5 rail sidings right in the Bonley Bear Creek area. You can't put a grain mill anywhere except on the rail siding. They need to be heavy industrial. We got a tie yard on the rail siding. It needs to be heavy industrial. You can't blanket zone these things. A lot of these people don't even know what's going on yet. Some of those mills that I'm talking about aren't currently in operation, but they will be. Rail sidings are hard to get. If there's ever a development, they go buy property where rail siding is already in. Those areas need to be zoned as heavy industrial. The general shale that was mentioned about the Nick earlier tonight needs to be heavy industrial. No other category should even apply. That's what they do. So this information that the comprehensive plan would provide us would allow us to accomplish what we want to do in one step. That would be more efficient than doing and undoing and redoing, which is the approach that we're headed for. I just want to reiterate the fact that I think there's a middle ground approach here that can make everyone happy on both sides of this issue. And I really wish to consider either the open use zoning or conditional use to address these issues, and I think we can make everybody happy. Make sure I hit all the notes. It's not any new information here. I apologize for rehashing all. It's not any new information. But I just want to bring it to your attention again. Please consider these things before we take a vote. We have never had this much turnout on an issue that I've been involved in since I've been in county government. With this much turnout, there should be a message that maybe we need to listen to these people. And please take into consideration when you make the vote.